you awaken to a different kind of cold, not the fleeting chill of a forgotten window or the biting snap of a modern winter morning. This is a cold that seeps, that clings, that seems to predate memory itself. Imagine for a moment that you are there, not in some grand, insulated castle, not in the gilded warmth of a king's chambers, but in a simple wattle and daub dwelling, somewhere in the forgotten heart of medieval Europe. The year, perhaps, is 1347 or 1420. The precise year matters less than the profound, aching reality of it. Your breath, a ragged plume, hangs suspended in the air before you, visible evidence of the war being waged within your very lungs. There is no thermostat to nudge, no hum of a furnace about to kick to life. There is only the silence, broken only by the shivering of timbers and the distant, mournful cry of a winter bird. This is the dawn of your medieval week, a solitary journey into a past where warmth was not a given, but a hard-won victory. We, in our brightly lit, centrally heated world, have forgotten the true nature of winter. We complain of drafts, of high energy bills, or the inconvenience of a dead car battery. But what if the very concept of easy warmth was stripped away? What if every single calorie of heat had to be earned, painstakingly, often painfully? This is the forgotten wisdom of our ancestors, etched not in books, but in the very fabric of their daily struggle. Day one begins with the deepest ache. It's a cold that doesn't just touch the skin, it penetrates the bone, settles in the marrow. Your fingers, even before you move them, feel stiff, clumsy. Your eyelids, heavy with the weight of sleep, resist opening to the dim gray light filtering through a tiny, unglazed window opening covered with a stretched animal bladder. The straw beneath you, once a comforting bed, now feels like a thin barrier against the relentless earth cold. The first act of the day, before even thought, is survival. To move, to find the kindling carefully hoarded the night before, to feel the rough bark of the logs still singing with the deep-seated cold of the forest. The smallest task, like pulling on the thick, scratchy wool tunic, becomes an effort of will. Every movement is deliberate, a conservation of precious energy. There is no rush, only the slow, determined grind against the elements. Imagine the smell, not of coffee brewing or toast crisping, but the damp earth, the faint lingering scent of last night's peat smoke, the musty odor of unwashed wool, and underneath it all, the sharp, almost metallic tang of raw cold. Your nose, perpetually running, feels like two icicles. Your lips, chapped and cracked, sting with every word. The heart of the medieval home, its very pulse, was the hearth. Not a sleek, modern fireplace, but a simple stone-lined pit, often in the center of the room, with a hole in the roof above to let out most of the smoke. Most of it. Smoke was an unavoidable companion in this existence, clinging to clothes, hair, and the very air you breathed. It stained the walls, blurred the edges of the room, and became a constant, stinging reminder of the raw, untamed nature of heat itself.
To start the fire. This was a ritual, a prayer, a testament to human ingenuity. No flick of a lighter, no press of a button. Instead, the painstaking work of flint and steel, the delicate coaxing of a spark onto a piece of char cloth, the gentle blowing until a tiny ember glowed, a miniature sun in the vast gray expanse of the room. This tiny spark was life itself, the promise of warmth, the only barrier between you and the creeping numbness. As the first tendrils of smoke curl upwards, an almost primal relief washes over you. The cold doesn't vanish, not entirely, but its immediate suffocating grip loosens. The heat radiates outwards, slowly, hesitantly, transforming the air closest to the flame. You huddle, drawing your rough cloak tighter, extending hands that feel like frozen claws towards the nascent warmth. This is not comfort in our modern sense. This is the absence of acute pain, a temporary reprieve. Food, too, is redefined by the cold. There is no fresh fruit, no crisp vegetables. Your diet is one of preservation and necessity. Dried meat, hard bread, perhaps some stored roots, turnips, carrots, if you were fortunate enough to have them. Water, if not stored carefully near the fire, would freeze solid. To drink, you might melt snow or chip away at ice, each mouthful a shock to the system. Consider the children. Imagine a mother, her face etched with the weariness of constant vigilance, cradling an infant by the dying embers of a fire. The child's skin, delicate and vulnerable, is perpetually cool to the touch. Every cough, every sneeze was a potential harbinger of doom. Illness in this world was not an inconvenience. It was a predator, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the body to weaken. A common cold could quickly become pneumonia, a simple fever, a death sentence. Their small bodies, so much less able to regulate temperature, were constantly at risk. The warmth of a mother's embrace, the shared body heat under layers of scratchy wool, became a shield against the encroaching darkness. By midday, the brief warmth of the morning fire has dissipated. The walls, the floor, the very air itself suck at the heat, pulling it away. The sun, a pale disk in the winter sky, offers little solace. It casts long, stark shadows, but its warmth is a whisper, quickly swallowed by the vast indifference of the landscape. This is a cold that reminds you of your insignificance, your fragility. Your tasks are dictated by the relentless demands of the cold. Chopping wood, if you have the strength, is a brutal, necessary chore. The axe, heavy and unwieldy, feels like an extension of your own aching bones. Each swing is an act of defiance against the inevitable. Or perhaps tending to the animals, if you have them. The cow, the sheep, their breath steaming in the frigid air of the byre. Their own warmth a precious, if small, contribution to the household ecosystem. This is not a world of individual comfort, but of communal survival. The village, the family, the immediate community, these were the vital units of warmth. People huddled together not just for emotional support, but for literal physical heat. Imagine a small group gathered around a flickering fire in the communal hall, their cloaks drawn tight, their bodies pressed close. The shared warmth of humanity, the rustle of straw, the low murmur of voices, the scent of wood smoke and damp wool, these were the sensations of medieval warmth. Let us step outside for a moment, into the relentless embrace of the winter landscape. The world outside the crude shelter is a palette of muted grays and whites, stark and unforgiving. The trees, stripped bare, stand like skeletal sentinels against a sky that promises little warmth. The ground, hard and frozen, cracks underfoot. The wind, when it rises, howls like a hungry wolf, tearing at your inadequate clothing, seeking out every weakness, every gap. To venture out was to face a raw, elemental force that cared nothing for your existence. Every journey, every foraging trip was a calculated risk. Frostbite was a constant threat, and the loss of a finger or toe, or worse, was not a rare tragedy, but an all-too-common reality.
Ilara, a young woman in a small Saxon village, watched her younger brother, Thomas, shiver uncontrollably, despite being wrapped in every available scrap of wool. His lips were blue, his breath shallow. Her mother, her face grim, had spent the morning trying to coax a fire to life from damp wood, her hands raw and cracked. Ilara knew what must be done. With a heavy heart, She took the only blanket that still offered some semblance of warmth, the one her grandmother had woven, and laid it carefully over Thomas, pressing close to him, willing her own dwindling heat into his small, trembling body. It was a silent act of sacrifice, a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of their survival. As dusk approaches on day one, the cold deepens its grip. The light fades quickly, replaced by a gloom that feels heavier, more oppressive. The wind whispers through the cracks in the walls, a spectral presence. This is when the fear truly begins to set in, not a panicked fear, but a slow, creeping dread, the fear of the night, of the long hours of darkness when the fire might die, when the cold might finally win. The evening meal is a quiet affair, eaten quickly, often in the near darkness, illuminated only by the dying embers or a small rushlight that offers more smoke than illumination. The food is swallowed quickly, not savored, but consumed for its meager caloric value, its promise of internal warmth. Every calorie is a fuel pellet for the body's furnace. Sleep, when it comes, is not a deep, restorative plunge. It's a fitful doze, punctuated by shivering, by the aching cold in your extremities. You might wake multiple times in the night, compelled by an instinct older than consciousness to check the fire, to add another precious log, to blow gently on the embers, willing them back to life. The fear of waking to a dead fire, to a truly frozen dwelling, is a constant phantom in the back of your mind. Day 2 dawns, and the novelty of the experience has worn off, replaced by a grinding exhaustion. Your body feels heavy, your muscles stiff. The initial shock has given way to a persistent ache. The hands, perpetually cold, are cracked and painful. The face, exposed to the elements, feels raw and chapped. The challenges of hygiene, too, become starkly apparent. Water is precious, often frozen. Washing becomes a luxury, a calculated risk. The very act of exposing skin to the frigid air is daunting. The scent of unwashed bodies, of damp earth and wood smoke, becomes the prevailing aroma of your existence. This is not a world of perfumed cleanliness, but of basic survival, where every resource is prioritized for warmth and sustenance. Brother Thomas, the Benedictine monk, shivered even within the thick walls of the monastery. His hands, usually steady as he copied manuscripts, now trembled uncontrollably. The ink in his pot, despite being placed near the brazier, often froze. His fingers ached with chilblains. Yet his devotion was unwavering. He would rise before dawn, his breath clouding the frigid air of the scriptorium, and begin his work, finding a different kind of warmth in the meticulous strokes of his quill, in the silent burning flame of his faith. He understood that true warmth came not just from external sources, but from an internal resolve, a spirit that refused to be extinguished by the elements. The psychological toll of perpetual cold cannot be overstated. It drains your energy, dulls your mind, makes every decision a monumental effort. The landscape outside, once perhaps beautiful in its starkness, now seems menacing, an endless expanse of indifferent white. Depression, born of cold and hunger, was a constant companion for many in the medieval winter. The days blurred into a monotonous cycle of stoking fires, seeking food, and trying to escape the chill.
Yet, amidst this hardship, ingenuity flourished. Look closely at the construction of a medieval home. The thick earthen walls, the low ceilings, the packed earth floors, all designed to trap what little heat could be generated. The small, often unglazed windows facing south to catch the weak winter sun further minimized heat loss. Animal skins draped over doorways and windows provided additional insulation. The shared sleeping arrangements, often with multiple family members or even farm animals sharing a room, were not just a matter of social custom, but a pragmatic necessity for cooling body heat. Every aspect of their life was an intricate dance with the cold. Day 3. The exhaustion is deeper now. Your body protests, aches in places you didn't know existed. Your immune system, constantly battling the cold, is weakened. The thought of another day, another night, feels overwhelming. This is where the true resilience of the medieval person comes into focus. They did not have the luxury of giving up. Their survival depended on a raw, elemental grit, a stubborn refusal to succumb. Consider the role of clothing. Layers upon layers of wool, linen, and sometimes fur. These were not fashion statements, they were life vests. Each thread, each weave was a tiny barrier against the relentless cold. The feeling of rough wool against the skin, initially uncomfortable, became a comforting constant, a second skin. Removing even a single layer was to invite the enemy in. Mini story number 3. In the bustling, yet still bone-chilling streets of London, Agnes, a street vendor, huddled over a small brazier, its coals offering meager warmth against the biting wind. Her hands, gnarled and red, clasped a mug of thin ale, the closest she could get to internal warmth. She had been out since before dawn, her voice hoarse from calling out her wares, but she could not afford to stay inside. Every shilling earned meant another lump of coal for her own small dwelling. Another day her children would not wake up with ice on their eyelashes. Her survival was a daily painful negotiation with the cold, a testament to the unyielding necessity of earning a living even when every fiber of her being cried out for warmth. The light of the fire, though small, became a focal point, a mesmerizing, almost hypnotic presence. People would gather around it, not just for heat, but for companionship, for stories. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the walls, transforming the mundane into something almost mystical. This was where tales were spun, where wisdom was passed down, where the community forged its bonds against the common enemy of winter. The warmth of the fire was intertwined with the warmth of human connection. Day 4. Your senses are heightened, oddly. The crackle of the fire, the whisper of the wind, the scent of wood smoke. These sounds and smells are no longer background noise, they are the soundtrack of your survival. You've grown accustomed to the persistent chill, not in a comfortable way, but in a way that allows you to function within it, to adapt your movements, your thoughts to its unyielding presence. The threat of fire, ironically, was also a constant companion. A spark escaping the hearth, a misplaced ember, and the wattle and daub dwelling with its straw roof could quickly become an inferno. The same source of life could, in an instant, become the bringer of destruction. This paradox, the constant dance between creation and destruction, was an inherent part of medieval life. Mini story number 4. Young Liam, a stable boy, spent his nights curled amongst the horses in the barn. Their massive bodies generated a surprising amount of heat, and the thick straw bedding provided a meager but effective insulation. The air was thick with the scent of hay and horse, but it was warmer than his own family's hut. He often dreamed of the summer, of long days spent in the sun, of the feel of warm earth beneath his bare feet. But for now, the rhythmic breathing of the horses, their large warm flanks were his sanctuary, a living furnace in the depths of winter. He knew he was luckier than many, for not all had such a warm, if unconventional bed.
Consider the role of belief. In a world where warmth was so precarious, so hard-won, the concept of a benevolent deity, a heaven of eternal warmth and light, must have been a profound comfort. The flickering candles in the church, the communal warmth of the gathered faithful, the promise of salvation from the earthly chill, these offered not just spiritual solace, but a psychological refuge from the brutal realities of their existence. The divine was not abstract. It was intertwined with the very tangible need for warmth and survival. Day 5. Your body has entered a state of grim acceptance. The initial shock has long worn off, replaced by a deep-seated fatigue. But there is also a quiet resilience, a recognition that you have endured, that you are still here. You've learned to move more slowly, to conserve energy, to appreciate every small flicker of warmth. The silence of a medieval winter night, once eerie, now feels almost comforting. Without the constant hum of modern machinery, the distant rumble of traffic, the world outside becomes a vast, quiet expanse. The stars, unobscured by light pollution, glitter with an intensity rarely seen in our modern world. A cold, diamond-hard beauty that reminds you of the vastness and indifference of the universe. Mini-story number 5. Johanna, the village midwife, walked through the deepest snow, her lantern a tiny beacon in the vast darkness. A woman was in labor, and the babe was overdue. Johanna's own fingers were numb, her breath pluming in the frigid air. But a new life was coming, and new life brought its own warmth, its own fierce light. She thought of the stories her grandmother used to tell of babies born in the harshest winters, wrapped in rabbit furs, their first cries a defiance against the cold. The act of bringing life into this world, even in the depths of winter, was an act of profound hope, a testament to the enduring cycle of humanity. Day 6. You feel as though you have been stripped bare, not just of warmth, but of all the superficialities of modern life. Your focus is singular, primal, warmth, food, survival. The small joys become magnified, the warmth of a renewed fire, the taste of a hot, if simple meal, the brief comfort of a deep breath that doesn't sting. The shared humanity in such conditions is profound. There are no strangers when survival is at stake. The passing traveler, the neighbor seeking a favor, these are not inconveniences, but potential sources of shared warmth, of mutual aid. The concept of community was not an abstract ideal, but a tangible, life-saving reality. As the sun begins its slow descent on day 6, casting long, bruised shadows across the snow-covered landscape, a flicker of something new appears. Not warmth, not yet, but the promise of it. The thought of tomorrow, the final day, brings a faint stirring of anticipation. You have faced the medieval winter, and you have, so far, endured. Day 7. The final morning. There is a sense of quiet triumph, not boisterous or celebratory, but a deep internal satisfaction. Your body is weary, but your spirit, surprisingly, feels stronger, more resilient. You have touched the raw edge of history, felt the biting wind that shaped our ancestors, and emerged. The final act of feeding the fire, of watching the flames dance, feels different today. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about respect. Respect for the element that has sustained you, for the ingenuity of those who mastered it, for the sheer endurance of the human spirit. As the day progresses and the thought of returning to your modern existence grows clearer, a profound realization settles upon you. We, in our modern world, have gained so much in terms of comfort and convenience. We have conquered the immediate, brutal threat of winter, but in doing so, have we lost something? Have we forgotten the visceral appreciation for warmth, the profound gratitude for a simple fire, the deep connection to the elements that once defined our existence? The medieval winter was not just a season, it was a character in the human story, a demanding teacher. It taught resilience, resourcefulness, and the profound value of community. It forced humanity to look inwards, to find strength not just in external comforts, but in the unyielding fire of the human spirit. When you finally return to the warmth of your own home, to the effortless flick of a switch, the silent hum of your furnace, you will do so with new eyes. The air will feel different. The simple act of stepping into a heated room will no longer be taken for granted. You will carry with you the faint echo of wood smoke, the phantom ache of deep cold, and a newfound appreciation for the extraordinary journey our ancestors made, day after frozen day, in their relentless pursuit of warmth. For warmth, you see, is not just a temperature. It is life. It is connection. It is hope. And in the heart of a medieval winter, it was everything. And perhaps in remembering their struggle, we can find a deeper appreciation for the warmth that surrounds us, a warmth that was once, for so many, a fragile, hard-won miracle. And in that appreciation, a new kind of warmth begins to glow within us all.